All right, friends, this episode of Sovereign with Samantha Lotus, I had the joy, the pleasure, we had a lot of laughs. I got to interview Elliott Daigneault, a fellow Canadian from Montreal as well. He's an adventurer, a renegade, a raconteur. He's a professional yapper. He is the host of the Right Call podcast, and he is saying the things that we all are quietly thinking. He gets into politics, world news, and discernment, helping people actually use their brains and think and make good decisions. It has been a joy following him online, getting to see his stories and feeling so understood by somebody that's saying the thing that we are all thinking. So dive into this episode, enjoy. There's a lot of gold, a lot of good. And even if you're not Canadian, this is really for everybody because it's an issue that we can all connect with, especially if you are in the Western world and feeling disenfranchised with what is happening in the world. This is an episode for you. We go into a lot of different things. It gets pretty wild at sometimes. So I think you're going to really enjoy. We love you so much. Can't wait to hear how you feel about this episode. So excited to dive in with you, Elliott. I know that you and I have been connected online for a little while, and I'm not sure exactly how that happened, but I remember seeing your videos and just recognizing you as another leading voice, as a freedom fighter, as somebody that actually has discernment and speaks truth in a world where there's so much lack in that. And I remember when I started following you, thinking, oh my gosh, there's another Canadian who actually has a brain and who thinks and who's doing similar things and who's thinking
hmm
about sovereignty and freedom and breaking down these big concepts and helping people learn the truth, helping people have the veil of illusion removed from their eyes. And I'm just so excited to have you here and share your wisdom. And yeah, I'm super stoked. So thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today.
Well, thank you for having me on. And yes, we are a small group in Canada, a small group, but I think it's growing by the day, to be honest with you. And I'm starting to see it. People are becoming a little bit more vocal. They're starting to take agency over their lives. So you know what? I have hope for the future.
I do too. I do too. And that's why we have this podcast. That's why we're having this episode. Because, yeah, right now it looks like a little grim. It looks a bit like doom and gloom.
Mhm.
However, there are strategies, there are ways, there are people and communities and movements that are happening, and we get to be a part of that. So, with that being said, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you? What are you about? How'd you get into
Mhm.
this? Like, give us a little bit of Elliot.
Well, I never set out to do any of this, to be honest with you. It was never the path. I mean, I grew up playing hockey. Hockey was going to be my life. Eventually, things got in the way and ended up in business, actually. So I launched a company 10 years ago in the tech industry. And you know what? It was the best thing I could have ever done, especially during the little, call it the COVID era, where if you weren't independent, you were at the mercy of the powers that be. So that really helped out. It allowed me to move to the US. I lived in Florida for a couple of years. It were the best 2 years of my life. And, you know, when it came to starting a show, a podcast, content creation, and kind of blowing up on social media, again, it was never what I intended to do. It just came about eventually with, you know, sharing publicly the conversations that I have in private. These are the kind of thoughts and ideas and conversations that I have with friends and families, you know. We're very tightly knit. We all kind of share the same philosophy, the same outlook on life. And then I realized, you know what, there's such a vacuum, especially in Canada. You know, the US is a little bit better than us at that. They're a little bit more at the front, the forefront of ideologies, of liberty. And I guess it's an ethos for them, right? It's in their culture. It's rooted in their culture. Canada, we're a little bit more on the defensive side, a little bit more on the subservient side to an extent, if I may use that term. So I thought, you know, there's not many voices out there. So if I must be one of those voices, so be it. I'll put it out there, and you know, whatever may come comes. And it's been less than a year, and it's really kind of blown up, and I'm taken aback by it. But again, it was never the intention. It's kind of weird sometimes to put all this content and material out into the world. I mean, I'm sure you feel the same. You know, you're all over the place as well. So sometimes it's a little bit weird to be in the public eye.
Yeah, it was never my intention either. I barely had Instagram at all. It was only a few years ago that I really got Instagram, and I had never had the intention to ever get into politics. I did not care
Hmm.
at all, at all. I didn't care that I was part of a country. I didn't care that there were other countries. I didn't care about the leaders. I didn't know anything. I actually just voted for Justin Trudeau for many years because he was good looking. I
You're one of those. You're one of them.
yeah, I was
No.
totally a liberal voter. Justin Trudeau, he's good
Hmm.
looking, he's young, great, let's vote for him. And then COVID happened. And I was always an anti-vaxxer because of my background in holistic medicine, functional medicine. So
Hmm.
I always knew that vaccines were horrible. And when the whole pandemic happened, I became very vocal, like, hey, we might not want to take this thing. You might want to think about it. And the backlash that I got from that, specifically from Canadians, really blew my mind. And it made me think
Yeah.
about, well, what is this? What? And then I saw, that there was like the trans ideology
Hmm.
and the LGBT movement and the autism movement and the pandemic with the vaccines. They all really went together for me in a weird way. And I started to think, wait, what is this ideology? What is this matrix? And then I learned it's wokeism. And I'm like, oh, cool. And so I started to talk about that. And that led me into politics, which I had no desire to get into. But it was like a thread. And everybody
Hmm.
has a thread that pulls the sweater apart. And for me, it was the vaccines that got me into this. But I realized, well, political talk and understanding what's happening in that sphere is really important because it does affect all of us, not just our daily lives, but our identities and how we think and how we interact. And yeah, it was a wild journey for me.
Absolutely. And I think the pandemic was an awakening for many, many people
Yeah.
because we were told not to believe what we saw. It was the first kind of 1984, don't listen to, or don't hear what you listen, or don't listen to what you hear,
Yeah.
don't believe what you see.
Yeah.
Logic took the back seat really to everything. And to me, it was just how easily manipulated an entire population could become. I'm sure it's happened to you. We've been in discussions, we talk about history, for example. At least it's happened a lot with some of the people that have been around. And they would always say, if I was living in 1939, 1940, 1941 in Germany, there's no way I would have given in. There's no way I would have resisted to everything. I would have never, never. And then those were the kind of people that were the first to denounce their neighbors, to call the police on an illegal assembly, to yell at people not wearing a mask. And then you realize, wait a second, that's probably the exact behavior that happened in Germany in those days, or in China under Mao, in communist Cuba, for example, as well. People, when you scare them, are willing to put aside their better judgment. They're willing to put aside logic. I mean, the logic of, you need to get the vax because if you don't, other people are threatened by that. And it's like, wait, that goes against pure logic. If people are vaccinated and immunized, then your status is irrelevant to them. It should be working. Basic logic, correct? And yet we were told not to believe our own logic. So
Yeah.
I think in that moment as well for me was, wait a second, the entire system that we've been told to believe in, to trust, and that it would be there for us, we could rely on it. Well, all of a sudden for me, that illusion shattered overnight. And I realized, wait a second, quite the opposite. I think there's an agenda behind it. And I think these people that we look up to don't have our best interests at heart. So how do it starts a journey of how do you step out of this? How do you gain agency, freedom, liberty over yourself? And you don't rely so much on this entire system because it cannot be trusted.
Yeah. That's the thing that a lot of people don't like to hear. They really didn't. And now they're more open to, and more people are waking up to. But the fact that the government is not here to protect you, they're not here to help you, they don't care about you, they're not here for your best interests. And in fact, they're probably super malicious, manipulative, narcissistic,
Big time.
abusive overlords.
Was the history.
Yeah.
It's the history of governments. I mean,
Yeah.
again, how can we look back and think, okay, the Nazis did this, the fascists did that, the communists did this, all these corrupt governments, and think today we've evolved, we've transcended it. No, the same tactics, the same corruption, the same thirst for power, the same psychopaths, really, and narcissists are still in power. I mean, politics will always attract people that are incredibly self-serving. I mean, if you want power, there's nothing greater than going into politics. And as such, it doesn't matter which party, personally. Like, obviously, I have my political beliefs, and I think some parties are better than another. But ultimately, deep down, if you're just going to wait for a politician or a party to come and swoop in and save you, I think you are so misguided and perhaps a little bit naive. I don't think anyone's coming to save you. And I think ultimately they may be better or more skilled at certain things, but their interest doesn't lie with you,
Yeah.
the citizen. It lies in them, their greed, their power, their thirst. And I think it's a little bit rooted also in human psychology, like it or not. We've all heard the quote, power corrupts all. To an extent, I mean, I've been in some positions of authority and power, and the little devil on your shoulder is always there, and you never think you're doing anything wrong. It's like, well, it's my right to make this decision or to do this. It's very insidious, and it can indeed, even the best of person, corrupt them. But that is, yeah, like you said, it's tough for a lot of people to come to terms with the fact that, again, the entire systems that they've been brought up to rely on does not want their best interest.
Yeah.
They don't. And we're seeing this in Canada right now, right? So we had an election at the beginning of the year. A new prime minister, not a different party, but a new prime minister, same party, came into power. And people said, yeah, but he's an economist. He's very skilled. He's got all this experience. And I said, for sure. I have no doubt that he's very skilled and experienced, but are his motives the same as yours? Does he align with what you expect? A lot of people said, for example, former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, however good looking and charming and charismatic as he might have been, a lot of people said that he was incompetent. To be quite honest with you, I don't think he was incompetent. I think you cannot become prime minister by being incompetent. You need to be incredibly competent. However, I just think people fail to make the connection that it's not incompetency. It's the fact that his competencies are not aligned with what you expect him to do. He's not lining your pockets. He's not defending your rights. He's not defending your interests. He's lining his pockets, promoting his agenda at your expense. You call it incompetency. I call it just a divergence of interests, effectively.
That's so well said. I was so disenfranchised. I was living in Dubai and just last year, and I moved back to Canada right before the election. Specifically, there are many different reasons, but at that time, I think it was 75% chance that the Conservative Party was going to win in Canada. I was so excited. Came back to Canada, we voted, I'm in BC, in a place where a lot of people are conservative here. But because of the whole Trump thing and the tariffs and the whole media manipulation, the Conservatives lost. But now I'm looking at everything and I'm not even sure that it would have made a difference if the Conservatives would have won. I feel so disenfranchised. Even looking at America, I did want Trump to win. I was happy that he won. I wanted the Conservative Party to win. But now seeing it really made no difference. I think that there's foreign infiltration of both of our countries. And this sounds really pessimistic. I don't know that there's any hope for Canada, regardless of who wins. And I feel so disenfranchised with the country in total and truly apathetic and hopeless. What do you think about that?
And I would apply this to even the US, even
Yeah.
the US,
Yeah.
Canada, US. I think if we look at Canada, if we're to get a little bit more nitty gritty, Canada's definitely under the thumb of the foreign influence of the Chinese Communist Party. That's something that has been ongoing for a while. CSIS, which is our CIA, our intelligence agency, has published a report that was top secret that eventually leaked that showed that something like 11 politicians and 17 staffers were implicated with the Chinese Communist Party that were under their influence, and that was brushed under a rug. So that's in Canada. In the US, there's also a lot of foreign influence. There's definitely a lobby, one that is dangerous to mention nowadays, but there's definitely a lobby, and you see it in the decisions that are taken.
Yeah.
Again, it's all about logic. Just apply basic logic. Why are politicians always subservient and rushing to the defense of a certain foreign power? You got to ask that question. Why are certain politicians dual national, where is their allegiance? Where does their allegiance truly lie? Why are certain, again, countries treated differently than others, not held to the same standards than others? Those are the kind of questions that if you ask, it will lead you to a certain realization. And then, yes, of course, I think both governments, Canada and the US, are under control, at least deep influence of foreign states, foreign agents, foreign powers. And that should concern all of us because, if we don't truly have our sovereignty, then no matter who we vote for, it's not even going to matter anymore because both sides are going to be, without saying the word corrupted, are going to be, again, influenced. And as such, whether you vote right or left, up or down, the influence is going to be present regardless. So it becomes one big uni party.
Exactly. And that's what I really came to the realization is it makes no difference. It really doesn't. We cannot rely, and I'm very grateful because I don't rely on the government for paychecks. I don't rely on a company for paychecks. I don't rely on the government here for healthcare. I'm not subscribed to any of that. I outsource to other countries. I have my own company, all of those things. So I feel pretty good. I don't really need that system. However, the majority of people aren't set up
Yeah.
that way. And there are a lot of really great Canadians that care about this country and want there to be changes, but it doesn't feel like there's anything that can be done. And so I want to know, like,
Yeah.
what, my answer has always just been, well, leave. I'm so not patriotic. And I do get a lot of criticism online for that. People are always saying, well, you're a coward. You should stay and fight. Why do you just leave? Why do you outsource? I have company in Dubai. I go down to other countries for medical support if I need that. I just outsource because I'm not patriotic to this country. I don't feel any allegiance to the government of this country. But am I a cynic? And am I being too negative? What would you say to that?
I wouldn't call it negative. I mean, again, same with me. My patriotism for Canada left the room, walked out the door the moment that I was branded as a second class citizen. I was a undesirable because I did not yield to the narrative, the mainstream, the coercion during the 2020 to 2022 insanity, hysteria. And that's when I realized, wait a second, this country doesn't give a crap about me. So why would I care about it? And it's further than the country too. It's sad to say, but a lot of Canadians share those views ultimately. So as such, and I was called all kinds of names, branded all kinds of things. So you're like, okay, if you don't fucking love me, then no love lost, no love lost. But I mean, I'm not gonna stick around and to your benefit, we pay crazy taxes in Canada. Why would I spend my money here? Why would I spend my money in a country that takes that money, turns around, spends it, gives it to foreign countries, or donates it to groups and organizations that I find are fundamentally flawed, the LGBTQ, the this, the that. Just to me, it's just insanity.
Yeah.
Why would I fund this? I find that incredibly like I don't hate myself to that level where I am willing to accept that disrespect. So I don't think you're cynical at all. And ultimately, I think we have our allegiance should be first and foremost to our family. I think family is number one, then your community. And your community is local, is close to you. Then your country. But if the country has forgotten about you or disenfranchised you or turned its back on you, then fuck it, Or I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on the
Oh
show, but
yeah.
like screw it, Yeah, cool. So yeah, then fuck it, fall back to your community and your family,
Yeah.
and putting your family first means if you need to move, you move. Look, it's in the history again of mankind. We've always, as a species, migrated, left, immigrated, expatriated ourselves. Let's go with that to greener pastures when it was needed, whether it was for religious reasons, whether it was for freedom, whether it was for economic reasons. So there's no shame in that. It's the way of human nature.
Yeah, I think that's so well said. I found it so eye-opening to live in the Middle East. Growing up in Canada, we don't learn anything about any country really. Like I'm from Montreal as well, right? We don't learn anything in school. But I remember learning that Muslims are bad and that the Middle East is a bad place and that there's nothing for you there. But then living in Dubai and realizing that one of their fundamental principles is happiness. They build in
Mhm.
happiness into their structure. The leaders don't believe in taxing their citizens. I remember watching a video of one of the main leaders, the sheikhs of the UAE, and he's like, Western countries tax their people, peasants. Why would you ever tax your people? Only a shitty
Mhm.
country, essentially, only a poorly run country needs to tax their people. And I remember thinking about that. I was like, yes, when you go to Dubai, it's the land of opportunities, and there's so many more freedoms. You feel safe. There's opportunities to actually make money and earn money, and you have 0% personal tax, only 9% corporate tax,
Yeah.
over 100,000 US. It's why how many? What is it, like a millionaire a day alone just from the UK is moving to Dubai? There's no incentive to stay in countries that are dying, like Canada or like the UK or like Australia, especially if you have money. It just doesn't make sense to be unsafe, to be taxed up to 50% on your income. And for what?
Yeah.
I live in the most beautiful, expensive place in Canada. I live in Kelowna. It's gorgeous. I love it. However, I walk down the streets and there are homeless people everywhere. There's theft every day. There's people breaking into cafes. The police does nothing. There's people doing heroin on the side of the road next to children's parks. And it's all allowed. Our country is going so incredibly downhill. I don't even feel safe to walk alone as a woman at nighttime in Canada, which wasn't the case 20 years
Mhm.
ago. Why would I stay here? And then you look out at all of the different policies here and the different ways that the country is run, and the lack of freedom and these new bills that are coming in. It is 1984. Where even this conversation, this is for entertainment purposes only, it could be illegal. It's
Could
2026. It
be.
could be
And it will be
it,
one day for
it,
sure.
it already, we already mentioned LGBT, and we already mentioned something against the government. This could
Mhm.
be classified as hate speech. We already have our news
Yeah.
censored on social media, and there's things that we can say and can't say. It just looks really grim. It looks really grim.
Yeah, it's absolutely grim. Again, especially when you compare it to other nations that are doing things right. And this is one of the things I do like about certain Middle Eastern country, but they're not the only ones. There's other countries that do this too. But we've grown so accustomed to the mediocrity of poorly run governments and being taxed that we just take for granted. It's just the way things go. When you bring taxes up in Canada, same in the US, by the way, to people, they're like, well, how else is a government supposed to fund itself? Well, the reality is that if you run the country like a business, like a company, and you put the citizens behave like shareholders rather than serfs that are to be used and abused for the benefit of the ruling, then all of a sudden there is ways. I mean, the US right now, through their tariffs, are actually generating a lot of income to the point where just yesterday, I believe the president announced a dividend to all the armed forces. Great. And the US, prior to a certain year, did not have any income tax. It was fully financed through import duties and tariffs. Then you have Middle Eastern countries. It's about natural resource exploitation and then proper investment and management of that money through sovereign wealth funds. You're seeing it. Barbados is something that's very similar as well. Monaco, well, okay, it's a little bit different. It is a principality. It's super tiny, but nonetheless, those are countries that do not levy income tax. The citizens reap the benefits of the resources and the management and the productivity of the country. Meanwhile, in Canada, we're doing the complete opposite. It's how can we extract as much value from the citizen at the expense of oftentimes or for the benefit of others. Again, all that foreign aid we're sending left and right, all the immigration that we allow in that costs us. It's not a net benefit for society. There's actually a net loss, a cost to that. And then you just ask yourself, well, this is not normal. I mean, we're modern day slaves in the system. And these countries, and there's very few, I think there's only 7 to 9 countries in the world that don't levy income tax. But then when you look at them and you realize, wait a second, it does work. And these people are living a better life and they still have the services. They're still, we get told, well, without taxes, there's not going to be roads, there's not going to be sewers, there's not going to be fire trucks. Well, no, the services like that exist over there. Yeah, that's when you start asking questions and realizing we've just grown so accustomed to mediocrity. But to finish on that point, just the fact that you mention it, every time it's mentioned in Canada, and this is an issue, I guess, with our views or values, really, you're told to shut the fuck up, appreciate what you have, right? Stop being ungrateful. It could be worse. And for me, that's the one thing that's always rubbed me the wrong way. in life, I've always been taught nobody's coming to save you. You go out there and knock on doors, build some doors, bring down some doors. What? You got to make shit happen. And here we are. And I'm saying, hey, there's a better way. We could do something better. And it's like, no, just accept mediocrity. Screw looking up for more. Screw inspiring or aspiring for more. No, you shouldn't do that. It reminds me a lot of the typical image you have of a unionized worker, where it's like, oh, you're working too hard. Slow it down. You're making everyone else look bad. And it's like, nah, 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 nah. This lowest common denominator belief to me is so like it's abrasive to my soul. I can't stand it.
Yeah, because when you become allergic to mediocrity, you feel it. And I love what you said. It's conditioned. What I can call it is conditioned mediocrity, conditioned complacency. Complacency. Canadians are one of the most conditioned nations on the planet, I believe. And this is something that during COVID, I had the pleasure and opportunity. I traveled to 16 different countries during the lockdown. Any country that would close, my husband and I would leave and we'd find an open country.
It's the best time
It
to
was
go. I did the
five-star
same thing.
hotels, full castle
It was
tours. It was
amazing.
amazing. Like Portugal, South Africa, it was amazing. And I would talk to people. Every Uber I would get in, I would talk to everybody. I know a couple languages, so I talked to all the locals. And I remember most places in the planet, a lot of people were asking questions. They're like, yeah, we don't really like this. It's kind of weird. But then Canada was the only country on the entire 16 that I went to where they were like, you're a bad person, wear your mask. People came up. I had a fight with a man in a grocery store that beeline towards me for not wearing a mask. He was a 45, maybe 50-year-old man, kind of good looking, kind of fit,
Wow.
comes up to my face and starts screaming, calling me a bitch to my face, screaming this close to my face. And I remember like just the conditioning, the density of it. And Canadians are bred to be compliant. They're bred to be
Yeah.
good citizens. They're bred to be sorry. That's a joke everybody knows. Oh, Canadians, oh sorry, sorry. But we're conditioned to be apologetic, to not push the boundaries, to not ask questions, to not go against the grain. We're really sheep
Hmm.
mentality in this country. And it made me so
Oh, so
sick.
deeply.
I remember leaving, I left Canada when I was in my mid 20s. And I always felt like I could never be in this country because there's no one I could talk to. There's nobody that thought like me. That is changing though. And so I wonder what's going to happen, with so many people waking up. We're seeing the freedom convoy, we're seeing these people revolting,
Hmm.
but the system is getting more and more compressed. And I feel like a combustion is going to happen. Is it that we're all going to leave? Is there going to be a rebellion? Like, what has to happen for something to really change here?
I had this discussion actually earlier on another show, and I'm going to bring another point as well, just to show the difference, because I know you told me a lot of your viewers are American, and I want to be able to contrast just the core ethos, the core culture, just the way people behave compared to U.S. versus Canada. But as I was discussing a little bit earlier today, it's sad, but I really believe in this. It's only once at the precipice that people find the will to change. And, sometimes, look, I have a son, he's 2.5, and his mother is very much, nurturing, wants to protect him from everything. Whereas I'm just like, look, he's going to hurt himself, let him hurt himself. He doesn't want to learn otherwise. That's the way it goes. Well, I think society as a whole needs to put their hands on the stove and burn themselves to realize that this is not good. People are suffering, but it's a slow suffer. People are still tightening their belt. They're still kind of making sacrifices and cuts. It hasn't cut deep enough yet. It will come. It will eventually, they will be at the precipice and they will find the will to change. The downside is that the longer you wait, the harder the change becomes. But you can't, like we say in French, tu peux amener un cheval à l'abreuvoir, but tu peux pas le forcer à boire, right? You can bring a horse to the watering hole, you can't force him to
It
drink.
was Quebec
So you
French,
can't
by the
force
way.
Canadians.
Very Quebec French.
Quebec French, very much so. Very much so. So, but you do
Ah
speak a bit
oui,
of
pas
French, of
français,
course,
mais
right?
je
You're
suis
from
bilingue.
Montreal.
Yeah,
Ah, t'es
ouais, je
bilingue.
suis
There you
bilingue. On
go.
parle en
So
français un petit
amazing.
peu, ouais.
On va faire un petit
Ah
show en
ouais.
français. Yeah, that'd be good. But now, for the Americans, just to understand really the difference between Canadians and Americans. So I whipped out the oath of citizenship. So this is the oath you have to take before a judge when you naturalize as a citizen. So, immigrants that come to the US or to Canada, that's the final step. But to me, it highlights deeply the divide between our common ideologies between the US and Canada, because this is the root. This is the foundation of a country. You become a citizen. This is what you're swearing to. So I'm going to read the American one, and then I want you to tell me what it makes you feel like, okay? Like what kind of emotion does it elicit? And then I'm going to read the Canadian one, and you're gonna see Canada the way it for the Americans, you see right away that we're a little bit weird. So the American one goes as follows. It goes, I hereby declare on oath that I absolutely and entirely renounce and abjure all allegiance and fidelity to any foreign prince, potentate, state, or sovereignty, of whom or which I have heretofore been a subject or citizen. Let me bring this on to the screen. Okay, perfect. That I will support and defend the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I will bear arms on behalf of the United States when required by the law, and that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, so help me God. So, how does
I
that,
got chills. I'm like,
there you go,
no,
right?
it's like being in Vermont. Live free or die, like, or New Hampshire. That's New
That's
Hampshire. Sorry,
right.
Vermont. Vermont. But
It's New
yeah, I
Hampshire,
love
yeah.
that. Like, yes, okay. Now give me Canada.
So that's patriotic, right? And it's like it makes you aspire. I'm part of this crew,
Yeah.
and I will defend it to the death if need
Yeah.
be. Good. Now Canada. All right. Whew. I swear or affirm that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles III, King of Canada, his heirs and successors, and that I will faithfully observe the laws of Canada, including the Constitution, which recognizes and affirms the Aboriginal and treaty rights of First Nations, Inuits, and Métis people, and fulfill my duty as a Canadian. So
That's
yeah,
it?
you want to talk? That's it.
Wow.
To me, the one thing that makes me laugh is just you're becoming Canadian, but then you're being told that there's other nations within Canada that have rights above yours, and it doesn't inspire patriotism. It doesn't make you feel like you're part of a exclusive club and that you should uphold its values.
Mhm.
So to me, that's the big difference between Canada and the U.S. One is patriotic, and it fought for its freedom. It rebelled against tyranny, and it's enshrined in its very essence. Meanwhile, Canada, well, we're a nation of compromises. We gained our independence through diplomacy, through contracts, through treaties, and it shows. We're not upholding anything here.
Mm. And the way it's either I swear or affirm. I can't
Or
stand the word
affirm.
affirm anymore. I don't want to affirm anything. So, that just I affirm your deficiencies and I affirm your beliefs and I affirm that you
Oh
want to be a potato and now you're a potato. Go affirm yourself. Like just, but
no, but it's true. It's true. It's like we when you affirm, yeah, there's no sometimes it's good, and then tell me if you agree. Maybe you disagree, and that's fine. But you need to have beliefs, and you have to be willing to stand up for them. And to believe something is not to I affirm, it. This is what I swear to. This is what I believe. These are my boundaries, or these are my ethos, my what I'm willing to die on. This is the hill I'm willing to die
yeah.
on. There's none of that in Canada. Nobody's willing to defend or protect anything. It's all about like, well, like you said, today I believe myself to be a potato, and please, the entire world must affirm my potato-ness today. It's like,
I
come
think
on.
that in Canada, Canada in general affirms victimhood. That's what it affirms. It
Hmm.
stands for victimhood. And in a way, the way I've seen it is Canada and Canadians, they weaponize goodness because Canadians fundamentally are
Hmm.
sorry and they're good. I do believe they're good people. They want to do the right thing. They want to be good people. And so we've taken that and we've made everyone a victim, and anyone that's not a victim is a perpetrator. And then we need a savior.
Yeah.
And so everyone has to be like tiptoeing around to not victimize or perpetrate. And then we all just feel bad and apologetic. And then that is weaponized against us. And we stand for that. And it's so indoctrinated into for me, and I'm going to ask you a question, then side note, but for me, it's just evil. And I've really dove so much deeper into Christianity over the last few years, where I was atheist for a long time. But for me, evil, when you learn about the devil and you learn about evil, evil is inversion. Everything that's good, everything that's light, everything that's true, inverted is what evil is. And when I look at Canada, and I look at everything, and I look at the policies, and I look at the people, and I look at the how everything is going, it just feels like everything is inverted and
Yeah,
it's being corrected.
it's a very good point.
So
And you mentioned that you did some work on Christianity. Do you feel a calling or a drive or an attraction
yeah,
towards that?
yeah.
Like, where do you
So
stand on that?
I was raised in Montreal from immigrant family. My grandpa's from Barbados, Irish, I'm very like Irish descent, raised Catholic, became atheist in my youth. It's kind of my whole family kind of fell apart and went their own way. Went into psychology, university, Montreal, we're all atheists, secular, trust the science. However, during the pandemic, and then I went very spiritual, new age, all of that. But during the pandemic, I
Hmm.
saw so much evil. I saw so much inversion. I saw so much that was being revealed to me, and the evil was clear. And I just felt it in my bones. This is evil with the pedophilia and all
Yeah.
of just everything, right? Like everything really came to light. But especially the vaccine thing. I knew that this was
Yeah.
pure evil. And so it clicked in my mind, well, if evil is real, well, good is real. And if the devil, and I started to see all the demonic symbol, it just became very clear. And I'm like, well, maybe God is real. And and I started to reconnect, and literally Jesus started to knock on my door. It just happened over and over again, and I ended up calling Jesus into my life over a year ago. It changed my life. I got baptized. It's just going back to the Bible. It's totally opened my eyes and blown me away and taken me down this path that I never thought I'd go down again. And why I'm bringing this up and what I want to ask you is, I feel like when a nation is completely secular, when there's no religion, which Canada is a secular nation, right? America still has religion because the Conservative Party, but Canada is completely secular.
Hmm.
I feel like this is what happens when you stand for nothing and you
Yeah.
have no moral external to just whatever you decide that you want to affirm that day. I feel like naturally there's a fabrication that starts to deteriorate. And
I think you're spot on when it comes to that, really. Earlier I mentioned family, community, uh, but I did forget, or and then government, right? But there's one power
yeah,
above that, and it is God, family, community, and then
yeah,
government, country, if you wish, right? And it's so fascinating. The reason I was asking is because you must be the 20th person I've spoken to that has told me that over the last year or so, they've had a calling back to Christ of sorts. All people that were secular, or atheists, or just agnostic for the most part, and that and they all say the same thing. This is what's so fascinating. They're like, I've seen evil, and as such, since I've seen evil in my own eyes, there has to be a counterbalance, which is good. And if there is good, then I have a feeling that that good comes from Christ, from God, from Jesus. And I've had the exact same experience. For me, it was less a pandemic, and it was more when I saw the Charlie Kirk assassination. I was stateside at that time. I was in
mm,
Colorado, in the mountains of Telluride. And I remember just I was by a pool just chilling, and I was looking at social media, and I was seeing people rejoice, like people laugh and cheers and celebrate the death of a 31-year-old father of two, irrespective of the beliefs, irrespective of what he believed and spoke about and did in his life. To watch people celebrate the death of someone else with such glee, with such joy. I was like, that's pure evil. Like you look at their eyes, they're soulless, these
yeah,
individuals. For the first time, really, I was like, okay, this is true evil. And I mean, look, in business and life, shit can be hard, shit can be tough. You meet some bad people, whatever. But to me, that was the personification of
yeah,
evil. And that's when I'm like, okay, so there must be another side to this and it must be good. And I had the exact same thing. You know what? Let me get my hands on a Bible. I've never read the Bible. Let me go to the source. Let me read the scriptures. I mean, I was baptized as a kid. I did my first communion, but never practiced, never really had the urge to. But I'm like, okay, I'm interested. I'm
yeah,
curious. And when I started raising or bringing that point up, because it's something that, you kind of do a little bit on the side, you're just like, how would people
yeah,
perceive this? And I would bring it up to some friends or some people I would talk to. And most cases, so more often than not, they would say, wow, I've been having that same
yeah,
feeling. And a good friend of mine out of Calgary said, He said the same thing happened to him, and he told me, I think Christ is building an army. I think like evil and perversion has had its chance to run rampant for too long, and Christ is now calling people back to his army.
Mhm.
There needs to come, there's a head, things are coming to a head eventually. So he's
Full,
like, just follow that
full
calling.
of truth bombs. You know, we are exactly 7 years away from the 2,000 year mark of his crucifixion. The 7 years, yeah, just a few weeks ago, we hit that 7 year mark. There is a global reawakening of Christianity, and it is spreading like wildfire. This is the contrast, right? There's more evil than ever, and we have reached ahead. And when we start to read the Bible and we go back, and I wouldn't recommend starting with the Old Testament. For anyone who's considering reading the Bible, I would not start there. I would start in the New Testament and start with the Gospels. And when we're reading the Gospels, it's so hard to not feel like we're in the end times. Everything that has been written
Mm.
about the end times is coming to fruition, and people feel it. You feel it on the planet. There's something happening. And when you said that Christ is raising an army, I feel it. It was re-evoked in me to the point where I feel compelled to speak about it, compelled to share with it. Something that I never thought that I would do ever. I was the person that would teach people about how God didn't exist and prove that to why,
Yeah.
and so I feel like, yeah, there's something outside of us, moving us, leading us, and this is all a big part of that journey. Yeah.
And the more I connect with people that have that same calling, that same feeling, the more it truly, to me, makes it seem like, okay, this is real. Because it makes no sense that within such a short amount of time, so many people that are unconnected to one another have that same feeling, that same voice, the same push, the same pull,
Yeah.
I should say. Again, we've all seen evil around us, and it comes to a point where there's a quote that says, evil thrives when good men, we can say good people too, but when good men do nothing
Yeah.
or let it happen. And I think we've let it happen
Yeah.
for too long, and now there needs to be a counterbalance. The pendulum is swinging
Yeah.
back. That's it. Now the thing is that we've gone so far to one side that any good people doing the right thing will come across maybe as extremists, maybe will come across maybe as even mean at times. And again, part of the discussion I had today, but my friend Jason said, no, it's not being mean, it's being assertive. And we've concluded, and I'm going to say the same thing here on the show. 2026 is the year of no. It's okay to just say no. I don't accept this. I don't want this in my country. I don't want this from my government. I don't want this lunacy anymore. It's okay to just say no. It's over. Screw the tolerance. We've been tolerant enough, and it's been used and abused against us. It's okay to just be no. It's over. I don't want this anymore.
Mm.
So, I like to say yes better, but I think we're at a point right now where it's time that we put our foot down and live up have some
Yeah.
boundaries, have some self-respect, and say no, no more. Done with
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. Amen to that. And coming together as a community. So many people feel so alone in their beliefs. I know I get this message on Instagram every single day, like, Sam, you put the words to what I couldn't say, or I'm the only person that feels this way in my community or my family. But there are millions and millions and millions of people who believe the things that we believe and see the world that we do, and they're awakening to that. And it's so important that we find each other, that we have these kind of conversations, that we come together, because I do have hope for the future. However, I don't feel like it's going to be easy before it gets harder. I think it's going to get worse. And having
Mm.
people that you can connect to, talk to, that you can trade with, that you can support and be supported by, that you can utilize each other's resources in these coming times. Because I really feel, and especially for anyone in a Western country, I think it's going to get worse for a while. I think we're going through major birthing pains as we transition, in this polarity, in this tension, because there's so much tension, and it has to either collapse or explode. It can't just continue on the way it is.
Well, things will get worse for a while, and the analogy I like to use is when you clean your room, it always gets messier before it gets
Mm.
cleaner. Yeah, it's just the way it is. So as we start rising up and reclaiming, I guess, our way of life, our culture, our values, it will get worse. And some sacrifices will have to be, Thomas Jefferson, again, one of the founding fathers of the US, says the tree of liberty needs to be replenished from time to time with the blood of tyrants and patriots. He recognized that, and I'm not talking about taking up arms and do anything violent here, far from it, but that whenever you want liberty, whenever you want something good, you need to also be willing to sacrifice on your end. There will
Yeah.
be effort and pain to go through to get there. But anything of value in life comes with a little bit of
Yeah.
effort. You need to put some strength and some fighting behind it. So don't let go. And another thing that I'd say is that there's more of us than we realize. We've just been told
Yeah.
to stay small, stay quiet, don't ruffle too many feathers. But as you're doing, putting your voice out there and connecting with so many amazing people, and as I'm trying to do the same on my end, you start realizing, wait a second, we are touching the lives of many people who see themselves through the voice and the beliefs we have. Well, if we only continue, it gives them the strength to also rise up. And as they rise up, they also awaken other people around them. And it becomes a positive chain
Exactly.
reaction.
We are not a fringe minority of people that feel this way. We are definitely not. So,
Exactly.
as we're having this conversation, you're in Montreal, I'm in Kelowna, we're both in China. Why are like why are you here? I know why I'm here. I had to leave Dubai. There was a whole life
Mm.
situation and it brought me back here, but why are you still here? Do you plan to stay here? What's your setup for sovereignty? Give us some juicy insights.
Oh God, there's definitely some juicy insights here. Okay, so where to start? So I did live in the U.S. for a couple of years. I was in the state of Florida. I was on an L1A visa, so that's tied to a
Yeah.
business mostly. But there are certain performance metrics that are required out of an L1A. It's a little bit different than an E2, for example. And eventually, after a couple of years, we just had to come back to Canada. So there were issues with our American visa. Now, after that, I had the chance to spend quite a bit of time in Portugal. So, I mean, it's been 4 years I haven't seen winter. This is my first winter, and I'm dreading every
Oh,
second of it right now.
I hear you. It's
But
my
yeah,
first
it's horrible.
It's my
Once you
first in
once you leave,
15
hmm?
years. But here in
Wow, you
Kelowna,
okay?
it's
Whew,
there's no
whew.
snow. It's 8 degrees. I'm chilling. Montreal, no, a little different.
Yeah, but see, that's the thing. BC, for the most part, you guys got the best weather
We
there is.
do.
So
But
you're
that's a
lucky
tangent.
with
Okay,
that.
so you had to come back. You're super stoked about winter.
So I had to come back. Portugal was great. Love the country. Obviously, again, there's some issues with Europe, obviously, but Portugal still feels like a little bit more of a wholesome country. One thing that blew my mind away was the family values they have over there. So I brought my son to Portugal, and I got to see how everyone just surrounds you and supports you, from restaurants to just passerbys on the street. Families are valued. There's still that very traditional aspect to their culture and their society. And it was so wholesome to see. Everyone would stop by, offer him something, talk to him. Obviously, couldn't speak Portuguese, but do you need help? Do you need this? Do you need that? Contrast this to in Canada, where you feel like a freaking burden when you have a child. It's quite the opposite. People look at you like, is he crying? Why are you disturbing us? It's just a completely different vibe. So I do like Portugal for that. And also cost of living wise, I mean, hey, you're not being screwed as much as you are in Canada. So the plan for sovereignty, for freedom and whatnot. So first of all, the US is always going to be a place that I believe is probably going to remain one of the last bastions of freedom, just again due to the culture of the people. And the Constitution is a little bit harder to
Yeah.
subvert over there. It's more black and white. It's a lot less gray like it is in Canada. So business wise, looking at certain avenues to be able to integrate and to go there. At the same time, though, I do believe in the freedom that the mobility of an EU passport grants you. 27 countries, it allows you really to kind of like weave in, weave out. I'm not a big fan of laying down roots and being in one place. I like the ability to move about 3 months here, 3 months there,
Yeah.
so on and so forth. So getting my hands on a EU passport is a big thing. And through Portugal, there's an avenue over there. It's called a D7 visa. And a D7 visa is for, and they call it passive income or retirement income. Now, you don't have to be retired, but it's designed for them. Certain types of income qualify, and the threshold is really not that high. And rental income, for example, was one of those. So I started purchasing rental properties, real estate here in Quebec, sadly, out of all places, in order to qualify for that
Mm.
D7 visa, which eventually will translate, I believe, to a citizenship after a certain amount of time. So these two avenues are really what I would prone and preach, but I would say that there are other countries, even some more up and coming, that are quite interesting.
Uruguay,
Uruguay
you're,
and South America
yeah.
is a big one. It's a
Mhm.
great one. Dubai is amazing as well. The Middle East, well, it depends which country in the Middle East, but the UAE, great place to be as well. And in Asia as well, there's some emerging places in Asia. The only issue is that for me, it's just that the legal system over there. Can I really trust it? Is it rooted in the same kind of beliefs I have? And that's where I have a little
Yeah.
bit of hesitation. But that's summarily the plan. There were a couple little sticks in the wheel at one point. I came damn close to getting an EU citizenship through marriage with a person from Sweden. That fell through very last second. There's some gossip there, but that's going to be for another
Is
time on
this
another
is
show.
this the mother of your child? Is this a different? Okay, so
It is not.
foreign
It is
bride,
not. But
love.
it ties into it. It ties into it. So that's
Okay.
where the gossip
Let
lies.
us know in
There's
the comments if you want the
it could
gossip
be a
because we might need to have little relationship time, story time with Elliot next time.
oh yeah. No, there's plenty of those. You could have a whole episode about
Yeah,
that.
how
So
French of you.
no, very much really Quebecois, we are very open-minded in Quebec
Yes,
regarding
I have
certain
a
things.
Quebecois father. Yes, I know. I know.
Well, there you go.
Love you, Dad,
There
but
you go.
you were naughty. Yeah. Okay, so I hear that. I'm in similar boat doing a lot of research on Panama, Uruguay. Not that I want to live in South America. I don't really love sorry. South America doesn't love me genetically. I don't know. We did look at Portugal as well. Just still a lot of taxes for
Mm,
foreigners when you buy property unless you are a citizen and then that changes. I mean, there are places like in Eastern Europe that I find are really interesting. Like
yeah.
Poland, especially, but don't learn,
It's
do I want to learn
amazing.
Polish? It's a whole other thing. You have to ask yourself, like, do I want to learn the language? Why I love the UAE, not
Hmm.
full time because I was there last summer and I nearly died. It was the worst thing ever being that hot, 60 Celsius for like 2 months. It was too much. But 6 months and a few
Wow.
days in Dubai, maybe 6 months in Florida, having a couple of different places
Hmm.
that you can move between, and then benefit from having bank accounts and companies in Dubai, even companies like down in Delaware, where there's less taxes, it's more
Yes.
supported. That's what I love is that people like you and I and people listening to this podcast, we're starting to think about these different ways. How can I set myself up for more freedom, less taxes? Because I'm sorry, Canadians, but your taxes don't just go to potholes into the medical system. Like, not at all.
They
Actually,
don't really
yeah,
go there
like look at
anyways.
Quebec. It's still pothole central, and the medical system is still the worst in the developing world. So we need to be
Mhm.
honest that these things are not what we think. And
Yeah.
what's so fun is you can set yourself up for more freedom and less taxes, where more money is in your pockets and you're in places where the government actually wants you there and cares about you and cares about your rights and your freedoms. And what I love is that more people are
Mhm.
awake to this and searching for this kind of thing.
Absolutely. Regarding Portugal, by the way, because you did mention the high taxes, there are definitely high taxes. However, there is this one little thing that is it's a godsend. So for new residents, so say again that D7 visa, there's also a D8
Yeah.
visa called the Nomad visa. New residents are offered a 10-year income tax free not bonus, but waiver, if you wish. So it's 0% income tax for the first 10
Personally
years as a new
or
resident
corporate?
on personal, on foreign earned income.
Oh,
So in your instance, for example, if you have a foreign company, so foreign to
right.
Portugal, obviously, and it pays you a
Yeah.
salary, well, that entire salary, as long as you're, in Portugal and a resident of Portugal, as a new resident, that is, for the first 10 years, you pay a fat 0%.
Amazing.
And of course, that is all legitimate money. It is declared. It is, all the tax treaties around the world, to prevent dual taxation. Portugal is a signatory of pretty much all of them because they're in the EU. So
Oh,
that
I
money is
like
completely
that.
tax free. So for so that's a great
Yeah.
benefit for people. And again, to qualify for these for the D7 or D8, it's very accessible. It's not hard. You don't need to purchase property. Spain has
Mhm.
a similar thing too, but you need to purchase property. It's I think
Yeah.
400,000 euros. It could be restrictive to some people, but Portugal doesn't have that. You need to have just a again researched a D7 or D8. But for a lot of people, it's a
Because
worthwhile
Portugal is
option.
amazing. We have friends in Porto, but I really love Lisbon. Such a huge community of expats, of digital nomads, of entrepreneurs. The weather is amazing.
Oh
The beaches
yes,
are beautiful. You go down to Sintra, you go down to Cascais. The language, I speak Spanish, but Portuguese to me sounds like Russian Spanish. It's a whole other situation. But people are
absolutely.
friendly. They speak English. They actually want you there. Where I lived in Spain for a few years, I did not like it at all. People did not want me there. Like it just being looking
Yeah.
like a British person. Where we were down in Andalusia, they're so sick of the Brits, which I get, and I'd be sick of the Brits too, especially the ones that live down there. Like you're just, oh, they're not the posh Brits. They're definitely the jank.
No, no, it's the
Yeah,
mad
yeah.
lad
And so live,
Brits
yeah,
kind of
for me,
stuff. Yeah.
Spain, not so
Yes.
much, but Portugal, I could do. I'm glad. Okay, Portugal's back on the table, Elliot. It's back on there.
Oh, yeah. Especially if you go down to the Algarve. I mean, I know
Ooh,
you like your Lisbon, your
I need
Cascais, your
city though.
Sintra, your
I
Porto,
like
but
city. I like shopping.
Algarve.
I like restaurants. But I do love the
Okay, okay,
Algarve.
okay.
It's so beautiful. There's some resorts there that are
Hmm.
amazing, and the beaches and the tall like
For
cliffs.
sure.
But
It's
I
amazing.
can't.
And it's only a 2 hour
Yeah.
drive, so you go down to, and that's what I do. So I, when I'm there, I'm in Lisbon. I'm right outside of Lisbon. I'm in Cassin, which is pretty much in between Sintra, Cascais, and Lisbon. It's like a triangle. I'm dead in the middle, which is great. It's 10 minutes to any of those places. But again, you hop on a car, you hop in a car, you drive 2.5 hours max to the Algarve.
Excellent.
Amazing, like you said, resorts in Villamura. There's the Conrad out there. There's the Hilton out there. It's on the beach. It's golf, resort, spa, you name it. Life
Yeah.
is good. And for people who've never been to Portugal, the best way to compare it is
Yeah.
very similar to California. It's the same weather pattern as California. So hot summers, dry summers, and then a little bit wet winters, but I mean, it's going to be 10 degrees and above. Like minimum is going to be 10 degrees. Most days, you're 17, 18, 19. So it's not a bad place
Yeah.
to be in the winter.
Yeah, that's the thing, for anyone that has money and the opportunity and the time, location freedom, I don't know why people are still staying in Canada unless you have like family or things you have to do. But even for people that don't, like I know a lot of people that are employees, they're not making a lot of money. They're like, oh, I could never do that. Like, but yes, you can. The cost of living in places, I was living in Thailand or Korea, the cost of living in Asia, you go down to Vietnam, Cambodia, have an amazing quality of life, work online, do something else. You can go to your, like, you even, there's always possibilities. And I think it's just not staying stuck in victimhood or limitation of like, oh, I could never make this happen. Because the trap in Canada specifically is your income is not very high, your expenses are astronomical, your taxes are astronomical, and it really keeps you stuck here. But you could have an amazing quality of life, so many different places in the world with opportunities and cool people and amazing weather that it's not too far out of reach. So I just want anyone listening to this being like, I wish I could do this. It doesn't have to be that far out of reach, honestly.
It doesn't, but a big thing to consider is, and especially in Canada with the currency that's being devalued, our dollars being hammered hard, is that you need to find a way to generate income from abroad. And the best thing, obviously, is through entrepreneurship, through a business. It doesn't have, like, we're not talking about starting the next tech company, the next Meta or Google or whatever. There are plenty of ideas, and I'm sure you speak about it on your show. But having the best way to get freedom or to be free first is also to slowly disassociate yourself from being tied to every system of your home country. And another thing too to realize is that you are lied to. For example, one of the big lies that is perpetuated all the time is that we're lucky we have the best healthcare system.
We have
It doesn't
the
cost
worst
anything.
healthcare system and
Oh
it
my
costs
God, the big
everything.
the worst, and it cost everything. And I remember when I did live in the US, I needed some medical service, and I had drank the Kool-Aid. I'm like, fuck, I'm gonna go bankrupt. Oh my God, I need to go to the hospital. And I was uninsured on top of that. I'm gonna go bankrupt. The story was insane. I busted my shoulder at the gym. I called the doctor in the afternoon. They told me, cool, come into the clinic in the morning. I was like, wow, that's fast. Like again, coming from Quebec and Canada, I'm like that's fast, like not even 24 hours. I walk into the clinic and I'm conditioned to just da 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 like run through it. I'm like, they're gonna give me 5 minutes, right? So like I gotta rush through everything. The doctor had to look at me and say, slow down, like relax. What's your family history? What's your life like? Have you ever had any surgeries? What medication? What's your diet? What do you do? I was like, wow, you actually care? You care about me? You want to know about me? After a little physical exam, they told me, look, you're going to need to have imaging done. Cool. No problem. I guess, how does it work? They'll call you to schedule. I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm driving back home in my car. 5 minutes into the drive home, I get a call from the imaging center. Again, I thought it was going to take a few weeks. No, no, they call you. And then they're like, so this is to schedule an appointment. When would you like to come? And I said, well, what's the soonest available appointment? They're like, well, we have tonight at 9 or 10 p.m. My reaction was, you guys are open that late? Again, coming from a system that would have definitely been closed. They're like, yeah. They looked at me all weird. And then they said, okay, cool. Who are you insured with? And I told them, oh, it's going to be uninsured. I'm going to pay out of pocket. And I was bracing. This is the moment. I was bracing for impact. And they told me, okay, well, we do have to let you know it's going to be a cost of $325 for that. And I was like, now I know for some people that might be a lot, but to me, I was like, that's it? I was expecting like 10 grand for real. So I remember being like so excited. I got on the phone, called my parents back home, and I'm like, you won't believe this. Oh my God. And I got to hear that a family friend of ours needed an MRI, just like me, non-emergency MRI. They decided to go to the public system. There was a 6 month wait. And then they decided, screw it, we're going to go private. We're going to pay out of pocket. It cost them $1,200, more expensive than in the US, and it still took 3 weeks. Meanwhile, I went to go see a doctor. I got booked for an MRI, did the MRI that night of, got the results the next day. And it was, all in all, everything in, roughly $400. Again, it's not free, but one, not as expensive. You didn't have to go bankrupt. And two, you feel like a human
Yeah.
again. There's service. And realize there's ways, there's
Yeah.
better out there. Again, you've been conditioned to only not to only appreciate but to accept mediocrity day to day, especially in Canada. Well, if you step out, you'll see it's a whole
Yeah,
other world.
I've noticed that too. I've had a lot of experience in different healthcare systems, living abroad for so many years. I remember going to living in Korea, being blown away. I was actually en route to become a psychotherapist. I was in pre-med, I was studying in Korea. I knew I was going to be a doctor. I lived in Korea and I got to see the Eastern medicine. And I remember just it was so different. I learned so much and it blew me open. And I remember one of my teachers was like, Sam, you're from the Western system. That medical system, you don't want to do it. You're not going to learn anything that's actually going to help people. And I remember being blown away. And then living in Spain, I had to go into the hospital because I had a kidney stone. P.S. Don't be vegan and eat raw kale every single day for 5 years. Um, but
A little bit of
little bit of
oxalate, eh?
oxalates.
Just a
Yeah.
tiny bit.
So definitely conditioned, by university to become a vegan. Anyways, I had a private doctor in a private room. I had a chef, and this was just at a regular hospital. I had a chef come to my room and ask me what I would like to have for breakfast. And the whole thing, I was in there for maybe
Whoa.
2 nights, 3 days, full thing, everything done. Private chef, I think it came up to 1,500 euros. Where like it was a
Amazing.
full service, amazing. They were talking to me about my nutrition. I told them I didn't want any of the surgery or anything. I was going to do oils, magnesium. They're like, perfect. We'll support you. We'll make you fresh pineapple that will help with the digestive enzymes. I remember being in Dubai, same. Doctors are actually prescribing supplements. Doctors, medical doctors, prescribing omegas because they're from Jordan and from Egypt, and they just are trained differently. And then you come to Canada. I remember having a gastrointestinal issue, and I had to wait 6 months when I was in chronic pain. Every single day, I could not eat, I could not digest. I was in chronic distension, and I had to wait 6 months for a specialist that didn't even know about the connection between the nervous system and the gut. And I remember thinking, Canada is the absolute worst. And the more research you do, it has the worst medical system in the entire developed world. But people think, well, we have the best and it's free. No, we don't. Like, we have to wake up and break free from the illusion.
Yeah, and they will continuously try to keep you under that spell, under the illusion. Their entire scam, for lack of a better word, collapses the moment you wake up. And another huge one, again, during the pandemic, I was in Florida during the lockdown. I was in Florida and I was watching the news back home, and it's like Florida is dying, people are in the streets, it's death, destruction. You need to stay home. This is deadly as hell. And then, like, honestly, I was at the bar. I was chilling with some friends. It's like, and then you look around and like life was very normal. Like everything was fine. I was going to the gym while my peers in Canada could not because they were closed. And then you're just like, wow, we're living in
Yeah.
two complete different reality. And again,
Yeah.
two realities, because to the Canadian, this was
Yeah.
their reality. This was the truth. But once you break free from that reality, you realize really it's like breaking free from it's like the movie The Matrix. You break out of the Matrix and you realize, whoa, wait a second.
Yeah.
Okay, this is not what I thought, right? Well, it's this happens day to day in plenty
Everything
of
we have been
countries.
taught is a lie. It is a lie. But that is unplugging from the matrix, waking up, and then reclaiming our freedom, reclaiming the truth. And so, a question for you as we dwindle down in time here is, if you had a microphone, which I know you do, that you have a microphone, and imagine that you could speak to the entire population and people's minds were actually open. You had a couple minutes where you could just speak to the entire world and they're open. They're actually listening. What would you say?
Wow, the
I
gravity, the
know.
weight on
You
my
can handle it.
shoulders. Oh my God, I could start a
You're
war. I
like,
could do anything I want.
I am the king of the
Uh-huh.
world.
We
You will
spoke.
do as I.
Yeah, we spoke
I
about
know.
power
I
and
see your
corruption,
little
right?
mind.
Da,
So
da,
you're
da,
like,
da.
ooh, what are we gonna do here?
Uh-huh. I never said I was good. I might be on Santa's naughty list, but honestly, I would say, and this is another thing that I've realized, I would say that, people have more in common than they realize. We share more in common with our fellow men and women, or fellow citizens around us, irrespective of the background, irrespective of the country, than we realize. There are powers that be and people who win by causing division, by pitting us one against the other, and by having us fight one another instead of looking up and realizing, wait a second, this was all by design. So if I could tell everyone all at once, it would be look to your right, look to your left. We're more alike. Sure, we have differences, different cultures, different beliefs, and that's fine. But our fundamental root as humans, again, we're a lot of us on the same wavelength. So to unify, to unite, to fight for what's good, and to realize that there is evil in the world, but it rather have us fight one another instead of fighting it. That's what I would go with.
Okay, I like that. And next question. Next question, interview time. You came here to have fun, didn't you? Interview. So you are the next Prime Minister of Canada. What do you do?
What do I do? Well, Katy Perry's taken, so I guess I'm gonna have to find someone.
Wow. But Justin Trudeau's gay. He's
Yeah, yeah. Have you seen Diplo? Was it Diplo that was on a podcast that was talking about? No, he's like, yeah, I've totally like hooked up with this guy, with Trudeau he's
well,
talking about.
he at least he
So
swings,
like, wait, what?
high. He goes for the hottie. It's good for.
He does, he does.
Okay, so
But okay, so Prime Minister of Canada, what do I do? Okay, without Katy Perry or Sydney Sweeney.
oh,
Okay, honestly, that's a good
save
question
us.
because
How are you saving us? I love we're like you have the
yeah,
ultimate
yeah.
power. I'm like, where?
You know what? Actually, I easy.
Okay.
I got the answer. I got the answer. Okay, I pick up the phone, the big red phone. I call the United States and I say, "All right, guys. All right, 51st state. Do we make it happen?" I would love it. Now, Canadians are gonna hate me for saying this, but I think we would be much more in a better position, more powerful, and freer if we were part of the union than if we were Canada. Canada, look, I think Canada used to be a great country. I think it was different in the U.S. and stood for amazing things. The Canada our parents grew up in, even my grandparents grew up in, is not the Canada of today. And I think we're sadly just a little too far gone to really make a change, or at least the change would be too drastic for a lot of people to swallow. So screw it. Let's make an alliance with the US. That's what I would do as a prime minister. I would go down in history probably as the worst prime minister. People would hate me, but I think I would have done the right
Yeah,
thing for the
I
country.
don't disagree. I thought about it. I'm like, you know what? We'll give the East to the liberals and we'll give the West to the conservatives. We'll cut out foreign nations. Bye bye China, bye bye Israel, and we'll just divide the country.
Yes.
You know, maybe it might go Hunger Games,
Yeah.
but I'm on the West now. You know, bring back guns. But the liberals don't get to have guns.
Oh, please,
Definitely
yes.
don't give the liberals any guns.
Well, I mean, they can have guns. We'll just ban them, and and they
Yeah.
won't know how to use them anyways. That's what's funny. But yeah, no, I guess it's another thing too, right? Like, I don't understand how people do not want to have all the tools needed to protect
Yeah.
themselves. Again, we spoke about evil, and as such, if you recognize evil exists, you have to realize you have to be prepared to face it. You hope never to face it. You hope never to have to face it. But I mean, if it
Yeah.
exists, it can rear its ugly head. And I don't, to me, a nation that doesn't empower their citizens to protect themselves with all tools necessary is, again, not a nation that
Yeah.
values its citizens. And that's something I find beautiful in the United States is the Second Amendment right. Whereas in Canada, again, I'm a gun owner. I own guns lawfully, legally. I have a license for it. But I mean, out of the many guns I have now, I think like two are legal now. All others have been banned and are pending confiscation. And that's not even to talk that we're not allowed to carry them for personal protection either. This is just for like keeping at home and using the
Mm.
gun range, right? So no,
For
guns are
those
a
of
good
you
thing.
who
I
are
really do
watching
believe in
and
that.
don't know, in Canada, we are not allowed to protect ourselves, and our government has told us that it's better to let robbers come in and steal what they want and to not approach them. In some places, like Hamilton, Ontario, it's now illegal to have ring cameras. They're not allowed to record. Did you know that? That just passed a few weeks ago. In Hamilton, Ontario, it's now
I did
illegal
not
to
even
have
see that.
door
No,
cameras because the if somebody is thieving, they're stealing your Amazon packages. Well, they deserve their privacy. They have the right to privacy, and it's illegal now to record them in Canada. So not only are we not allowed to protect our property or our
that's
goods,
insane.
but there's just no justice. It is the most insane thing that you have ever heard in your life.
But that's what I mean by the logic. Is like we're told that this is normal and the right thing to do. And I'd venture to go around and ask most Hamilton residents, do you support such an initiative? And I'm convinced that the overwhelming majority would be against it. But again, through the propaganda arm of the Liberal Party, let's call them that, the CBC and the mainstream media, we're told no, this is a motion or an initiative that people support. There's no way people
I'm
support
sure
that.
there are though,
No
like
fucking way.
the 8 times vaxxed with the masks still, and I think they probably are like, you know what? They're humans too, and they deserve their privacy. They deserve their rights to free movement on your porches, stealing your Amazon boxes.
Every one of those people are believe in that until it happens to them. This is why I'm
Yeah.
talking about the precipice. Once they're at the precipice, they'll find a will to change. There'll be a small fraction that are still like, you know what? Like I've seen this thing. It was a journalist who decided to go to a country. I don't remember which one, but a third world country to prove that it's just as safe and da 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 da. And she ended up getting raped in that country. And she's like, yeah, but it's because they're oppressed. And she was making excuses for their behavior. And I was just like, you know what? You're too far gone.
Yeah.
By all means, like continue.
Yeah.
Just go on.
Yeah. Yeah. It's sad. It's sad. But people are waking up. Conversations like this are super helpful. And everyone listening, like share these conversations, whether it's you sharing the link, you're sharing the videos, but share them too in your homes. Talk to people. Have real open conversations, question the narrative. And Elliot, is there anything else that we didn't get to say or anything else that you feel like is really important that people hear from you right now? New year, 2026, we just started. People are there. Or the year of the horse, the snake is done. Whether you believe astrology or whatever, it does feel like things are shifting. It does feel like people are wanting something
Hmm.
different. What's your last little thoughts for us?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I wish everyone a great 2026. That's the first. But understand again that it's not going to be great by itself. You're going to have to stand up and do what's tough, do what's right, and strive ahead. But I'd say take care of what you can control, your immediate surroundings. It's very hard to change the entire world, but if we all change the next two, three, four, five people around us, our community, our family, and we all do it, then the world as a whole will be better. So focus on what you can affect, focus on what you can control to an extent, and every day, and this is, my father used to tell me this all the time. He's like, imagine you're trying to climb a mountain, push a big stone up a mountain. It doesn't matter as long as every day you push it just an inch. Some days you'll push it many meters. Maybe one day it's going to be a kilometer. You're going to be on fire. And other days, you know what? It's only going to be a centimeter forward. But just push that damn rock every day. So every day wake up and try to do a little bit of good. And those changes will compound over time, over a year, over a decade, and eventually it'll be a whole
So
different life.
beautiful. Thanks, Dad, for that. We love that. My dad, my dad would
Yeah, he's
my
he's
dad
a
was
good man.
a naughty man, and he was
It's
Québécois,
the Quebecois in him,
yeah,
right?
Christian Jean-Jacques La Liberté, like really super Québécois, and he's like, Sam, don't trust anybody. History's a lie. Don't trust the banks. The government hates you, and like just live free or die. That was my dad. Hell's Angels, like energy. He was
But that's
awesome.
not that's
He
not a
was
bad thing
awesome.
at
So I feel
all.
like,
That's
we're doing
amazing.
our dads justice
That's
right now.
amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And he was the same. My father to this day does not trust banks. He's like the most anti-bank there is. So you know what? Maybe our
Maybe,
fathers were
maybe they,
friends. We
they
didn't even
sound
know
like they
about it.
would be.
Uh,
Well, I'm glad that you and I are friends.
yeah.
I'm glad that we found each other online and that we get to have these kind of conversations. Maybe Katy Perry is in your future. If so, I hope that's good for you. But
I'll take, I'll leave her to Trudeau. They look happy together.
yeah,
Sweeney,
yeah, I
however,
get
you
it.
know
I
what?
get it. Well, thank you for using your power and your voice and your platform for so much good and for inspiring people and helping people ask hard questions, do the right thing, and actually use the thing that God gave us, our brain, to make some good decisions. So, with so much love, I appreciate you. I'm going to make sure that everyone knows where to connect with you, how to reach you. And yeah, thank you so much. Have a beautiful year, and let's talk real soon.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me again. It was truly a
My
pleasure
pleasure. And
talking with you
everyone
today.
listening, stay sovereign, our friends. Mwah! We love you.